Meetings are a funny thing, right? We all spend so much time in them, we complain about them, and yet we just keep scheduling more. It's a huge paradox of how we work. So let's try to decode this very strange, very human behavior. First, just to get a sense of scale, let's throw a number out there. The average person spends over 30% of their entire work life in meetings. Just let that sink in for a second. Nearly a third of your professional life is spent talking to people in a room or, let's be real, on a video call. It's an absolutely staggering amount of time. And that leads us to the big question. If we all kind of feel like most meetings could have just been an email, then why on earth do we keep having them? What's the deal here? Is this whole meeting obsession just a massive bug in how we've set up our organizations? Or is it actually a hidden feature of how we humans are wired to work together? To figure that out, let's put on our engineer's hat for a minute. Let's look at meetings from a cold, hard, logical point of view. If a meeting was just a piece of code in a system, would we look at it and say, wow, that's efficient? Well, from that purely technical perspective, the answer is a big, fat no. A meeting looks a lot like a really inefficient processing loop. You've got this huge amount of information being exchanged, right? Lots of talk, lots of data, but it often leads to very little actual actionable output. It's kind of like a bunch of subroutines all running at once, but none of them are actually saving a change to the main program. And it's pretty wild when you see it laid out like this, isn't it? On the input side, we pour in hours and hours of talk. We call it collaboration. But then you look at the output side, and what do you often get? Almost no real change. A state of stasis, where everyone's just waiting for someone else to actually do something. The imbalance is just undeniable. This really gets to the heart of the logical argument. We love to defend meetings by saying they're for alignment. But what good is alignment if nobody is moving? If everyone in the room is perfectly aligned, but you're all just standing still, well, that's not progress. That's just a very well-organized standstill. Okay, so the logical case against meetings is pretty strong. But that can't be the whole story. I mean, if it were, we would have stopped having them ages ago. So we've got to look deeper, past the system logic, and into what you might call the human firmware, to really get at the unspoken need that meetings are secretly fulfilling. And this is where we find this really fascinating idea, the meeting as a social firmware patch. This totally reframes the whole purpose, doesn't it? From this angle, a meeting isn't actually about solving a specific technical problem. It's more about running maintenance on the human system itself, reassuring everyone that all the parts are still connected and we're all in sync with each other. So this gets us to the real stuff, the deep-seated human needs that meetings are serving. It's about reassuring the group as a whole. It's about making each person feel included, giving them a chance to show that they belong. It's about getting on the same page emotionally, making sure we're all feeling the same way about the work we're trying to do together. And yeah, if you're looking at this from a pure logic standpoint, this is incredibly inefficient. It's messy, it's often redundant. You could even say it's gloriously inefficient. Why? Because that inefficiency isn't a bug. It's actually a core feature of how we humans connect and build the kind of trust that you just can't code into an email. So, we've got these two competing views, right? The logical system that sees a glitch, and the human firmware that sees a vital, unspoken need. So how do we solve this paradox? Well, we need a new definition. We need to see the meeting for what it really is, an ancient ritual. So how do we actually use this new definition? Well, it's a three-step process. First, we have to just accept that meetings are not always about productivity, at least not in the sense of checking things off a to-do list. Second, we have to start thinking of them as essential maintenance for the human system. And third, and this is the most important part, we have to recognize that their real core function is all about connection. So, the next time you're sitting in a meeting and you feel that urge to think, this really could have been an email, just pause for a second. Remember this, you're not just wasting time, you are performing an ancient, necessary ritual of human alignment, one that's less about the work and way more about the we. And in the long run, that might just be the most productive thing you do all day.